Good evening, everybody. Savva here from Savva Talks Football, joined today by the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Tobs from Tapping Tobs. How are you, my man? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, we'll
Nice.
start talking about Spurs in a minute, and then it'll go downhill. But other than that, I'm
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah. We had a
Good
nice
Christmas.
breakaway from Spurs. Yeah. No, I had a good Christmas. I hope you did too. I had a good Christmas.
Yeah.
Very, very peaceful. And then, now it's back to business.
Now, yeah, absolutely. Look, the World Cup's over, and straight away it's almost like trying to get any traction on shows during the World Cup was awful. And then as soon as it finished, it was like everyone went, right, we're back into the Tottenham debating and arguing. So it's been good fun. Tom, so before we kick off, got a few things I want to talk about today. I want to talk about some of the players we're being rumoured, linked with, that Alistair Gold has put out today. There's a lot of discontent within the camp, again, probably because of people like myself who are very vocal with the ENIC out. There's all the contract issues with Conte. Where are you at the moment with Tottenham and where we are at this point in the season? We're looking at nine games in a row we've gone behind. Is it Conte? Is it the players? Is it the board? Is it Paratiet? Where are you at with all of this?
To be honest, I'm bored of it, man. I'm bored. I'm frustrated with it, but I'm bored, man. Like, I actually went to the game against Brentford knowing that we weren't going to win that match. I knew we weren't going to win, and I predicted a draw in the Big Six. And I'm just bored of seeing this team put out terrible performances to start the game and then come back into it and then rally back and sort of make every single game a struggle. Like, I don't really understand why it's got to this point where every team we play now, we're making hard work of it. Games that we should be winning, games that we should be coasting, games that we should at least put more of a fight over the course of 90. We're making it way too difficult for ourselves when it doesn't need to be. So that's just where I am with the team at the moment. And if I look at who's to blame, I think everyone has a part to blame. I think Conte definitely has to take blame, 100%. I think some of our players have to take blame. And then now when we're looking at January, I think the powers that be, the people that employed Conte, also have to take some blame as well. So that's just where I am with it.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? One thing's for sure, Tobes. As much as I say, listen, I'd love new owners and I'd love to act like City and Liverpool and even Arsenal now and Chelsea. It does keep us entertained as YouTubers, right? That the fact that it's not like we're coming on here as I'm guessing Man City YouTubers go on and go, right, well, that was brilliant. We scored 4 today. So what would you change for the next game? All right, maybe Foden in for Grealish or something. Look, in terms of, it's difficult, right? Because you've got the whole Conte situation. Now, for me, I've been very vocal, Tobes. You know me by now. I've been very vocal in saying that, look, I don't like his style of play, but I'll put that to the back burner. That's just an individual Savva preference, right? But I've been very vocal in saying, either give this guy top players to work with or get him out. Either way. For me, at the moment, I feel like we're kind of in the middle of the two. And I just feel like, when you get that feeling in your stomach as a Spurs fan, that you can feel this is the beginning of the end, if that makes sense. Are you there with that, or what's your feeling?
I'm getting there, to be honest, because it's looking like he's not going to sign a new deal. In my opinion, I don't see Spurs sacking him mid-season. I don't think he's done anything to justify being sacked personally. But I also hear where you're coming from, and I also question the board myself in that regard, because it's like, you knew what he was before you hired him. You knew what he was before you hired him, right? You knew the bed that you're going to lay in once you hired him, and you know what he needs to try and make this club as competitive as it can be. And you're 100% right. We're in this weird halfway house where we're like, oh, we'll back you, but we'll only back you at 60%. We'll give you the Richarlison that you wanted, but we won't give you the centre back that you need. We'll give you Perisic at left wing back, but we won't give you the right back that you wanted. We'll give you we'll give you Kulusevski at right wing, but oh no, we're not going to give you that. We're not going to give you that goalkeeper or midfielder that you really wanted.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
like we're constantly in this halfway house of Spurs fans, right? Because we're being put there by our owners. We had a project manager in Pochettino who I didn't want sacked, but the minute shit went south, and it was time to sort of stand by the manager through thick and thin and rebuild the squad, they sacked him because it was the easiest thing to do. They sacked the man who was at the club for five and a half years and brought in an extreme win-now manager in Jose Mourinho who's out of touch. You didn't give him the adequate resources from top to bottom to improve the team. You sack him, you bring in Nuno, you waste time there on a manager that you knew, everyone categorically knew was not going to do anything of note at Spurs. And then you bring in a proven winner, a guy who's winning right now, a world-class coach who says, I need ABC, and you give him half a B.
But listen, this is the thing for me. And look, I think a lot of people do, they are in a kind of state of flux at the moment. There are some people that think it's great, right? There are some people that will go, well, hang on. What is the problem, Tobs? We're fourth, which is the buzzword for the last 10 years in football. We're fourth. We're in the knockout stage of the Champions League. We keep coming back from losing games, and they see that as positive. But then you get the other people that are saying, well, hang on, are we any further forward really to when he came in? Because when the dust settles, we're fourth right now, but we've now got Chelsea, Liverpool, and Man United, who have a game in hand, right up our backsides. We had quite a big lead, and those teams slowly but surely are coming back into it. Are you a fan are you one of these, fourth? Are you bothered by top four? And either way, can you see Spurs slipping out of that top four, or do you think we'll maintain that?
I'm definitely bothered by top four. For me, I think that should be the aim for the club, the minimum aim now. We set a standard on the Pochettino that we need to be a Champions League club. So for me, I think we have to definitely prioritize finishing as high as possible on the table, but we also need to prioritize winning. And by winning, I mean as in like doing things that we've not done before. And when we have a manager whose speciality is to win, I don't see why we're not doing everything in our power to give him the means to do so. And then even on the whole top four shout, where do I think we'll end up this season? I still think we'll just about get top four. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I said this on Dan Potter's channel yesterday. I think we're in a fight now with basically four other teams to get top four, which is always the case. Last season it was Chelsea, Arsenal, West Ham, and Man United, right? Season before, similar sides in the mix as well. But I do think that that total air of confidence that I had that Spurs are guaranteed getting top four, I don't think it's there anymore. Like I don't think for me it's guaranteed we get top four. I think we could easily drop out of the top four. I think Newcastle could get top four. I expect Liverpool to go back into fourth spot. And Man United are breathing right behind us. But my saving grace for United is I still think we have more than enough firepower to finish above them over the course of the season. But it's not a good situation to be in. It feels like even though we're in the knockout stages, even though we're still fourth, even though we've still been able to maintain a relatively good position despite not playing well, it feels like we're missing out on an opportunity here. And it feels like we basically went through that really good form, the back end of the first half of 2022 for nothing. Yeah. We did all that for nothing because it's like, have Spurs really built on what we did last season? Have we really done that? I don't think the answer is yes.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think that's half the thing, isn't it? Is I don't think too many Spurs fans. Well, I say I don't think. I know from doing multiple shows in the summer and every transfer show and where are we going to finish. Spurs fans were saying, and I'm guessing a lot of the people that there's 230 of you in the chat already. So big up to everyone in the chat. Please smash the like. Please subscribe to Tapping Tobs. I'm sure you have already, but if you haven't, please go and do that. And subscribe to myself at Savva Talks Football, on the hunt for 2,500 in 8 months. I'm quite proud of that. But Tobs, lots of people were saying, oh, Arsenal haven't signed well. We've got a better manager than them. They're in our rearview window. Oh, Man United, Ten Hag needs years. Yeah, we're all right there. So that's Arsenal, Man United dealt with. Newcastle will take years with their new owners. And it's not really panned out that way, has it? It's at the moment, the ones we're above are Chelsea and Liverpool. So
Liverpool, yeah.
It's a strange one. And you get the feeling that whilst we say every window is pivotal, you can say this is the window, biggest window ever. I get the feeling that if we get this wrong and fall behind 4 or 5 of those teams, that could be a long way back for the next 4 or 5 years, because those clubs will go and strengthen in the summer if they get Champions League, and Spurs tend not to. So how important is the next, 33 days? How important is it?
I think it's massively important, man. I think like you said, it's the age-old cliche, right? For the last, God, how many windows? For the last 4 windows in January, we're saying this, and we're only saying this because we failed to do the necessary in the summer. But it's for me, it's important for many reasons. A, because we need to maintain and build and improve on what we've done so far. I still think this team has gears to go, even with this current crop. I think there are some reliable players like Son, like Basuma and stuff like that, who haven't really haven't shown their best selves this part of the season. I think obviously Kulusevski coming back into the team now and starting week in, week out. I think there are still things that we can do better, but fundamentally we have too many anchors holding us down, and we need to relinquish ourselves of these anchors. So that's, for me, this January transfer window is not only an opportunity to consolidate and improve on what we've done, it's also to shed ourselves of the excess weight and baggage that's holding us back. And third and finally, it's important for me because it will be probably one of the biggest indications for the manager on whether this is the club he wants to stay at. Because I want him to stay, but he's not going to stick around. He's not going to stick around if he sees that this is a club that are operating in this halfway house where they're like, oh yeah, we would like to win, but it's not the utmost importance to us. Oh, we give you this player, but we don't want to give you that player, even though that player plus this player could get you much further ahead in your goals. So it's important for me to improve on what our position, get rid of the players that are holding us back, and show the manager that he has every reason to be here. Because if he does stay here, if he does resign, and they do buy the players that he needs and bolster this team properly, we won't be left behind by the likes of Man United and co. We won't.
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing, Tobs. So in a second, I want to bring up a few articles. Listen, but I'm not on Twitter, I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on Facebook. But the number of Spurs WhatsApp groups I'm in, and the number of posts that get sent through in these groups, I want to go through a few of the speculated links. Yeah. Before we do that, I just want to talk to you quickly about when we're talking about Conte being here and what he needs to be successful as a manager. And obviously we knew the manager we were getting. You know this isn't the manager you bring in for a 4 or 5 year project. It's not. Yeah. This is a guy that wins now. With that in mind, are you then surprised that in the last sort of 6-7 months, we announced that Ben Davies was getting an extension to his contract, and now we're hearing that Eric Dyer is also going to get a new contract? Do these things worry you from a sense of, well, it clearly looks like there's no plan to revamp. It looks like we're going to hang on to players year after year after year, or is this a necessity from a kind of English player perspective? What do you reckon?
I think with the Ben Davies one, it's weird because the Ben Davies one, I'm in two minds about that one. But ultimately, as mad as it sounds, I'm actually not that bothered with Ben Davies being a rotation piece, right? What he used to be. If we had a first teamer there, I'm not mad at him being there. And I'll even go out and push the boat out and say, I'm not mad at Dyer being a rotation, literally just being a backup piece. But what I don't like generally is this club's ability to literally hold on to players that are not basically propelling us, right? These are players that are rotational pieces. We're talking about players that are either rotational pieces or players that are not good enough, full stop. And I don't understand why we choose to reward these players with more time, with more long-term contracts. Eric Dyer's got 2 years left on his deal. He's 29 years old. Why do you need to offer him a new deal?
Right.
Why do you need to offer him a new deal? You don't need to. People say, oh no, it's good business sense. It's savvy. I don't think so. Because who in their right mind is really coming in for Eric Dyer and throwing the cash out? If you want to keep him as a backup, calm. But for me, I wouldn't lose any sleep. I would not lose any sleep if Eric Dyer was sold this summer, and I would not lose any sleep if Ben Davies was sold. And when you give these guys a new contract, that's telling me you see them here for the long term.
Right. Would our rivals do that? So
no, they wouldn't.
Right.
They wouldn't.
Right. And this is one of the big things for me. When I see people saying, for example, like Chelsea. So I'm a big fan of not Chelsea, by the way, before anyone thinks that. So I'm a big fan of, I don't want to judge things in that kind of that tiny little snapshot. So, for example, people going, Chelsea and Liverpool are finished. They're dusted. They're in the mud. Because we're above them after 15 league games. I'm more of a, hang on. Let's look at the bigger picture over the last 5-10 years and moving forwards. Who's won more? Who's going to win more, right? Yeah. Let's not worry about that. But what I give respect to those clubs for is if they buy a player that doesn't work out, they move them on. If, look, for example, look at what Arsenal have done with like, Aubameyang. Didn't fit them up, bang, gone. Kolasinac, Ozil over the years. We seem to be the complete opposite, Tobs, where it's like, okay, cool, just stay here for 8, 9, 10 years. We did it with Lamela. We're doing it with, even people like Ndombele and Celso. This technically is their 4th year at our football club. And we keep doing it, mate. And I just feel like until we start acting like the bigger clubs, I can't see how this perpetual cycle ends.
Yeah, it's definitely worrying as well. And even like I said, I wouldn't lose sleep if both were sold this summer, but I would be more sympathetic to the club retaining these guys if they did the necessary to actually bring in the clear upgrades on them, right. the players that are playing in week out. So we know, yes, these guys are here on a as and when basis, as opposed to, you're playing in week out. I think there is a massive pandemic at this club when it comes to just rewarding these players that are not good enough. So I remember, and me and Sfiag will talk about this because we spoke about this on the last THF show and we'll talk about it again. But Davinson Sanchez is going to be on 12 months left as of this summer.
Right.
Sessegnon is going to be on 12 months left as of this summer.
Right. They're going to give him.
Sessegnon is going to get a new deal.
Maybe not Sanchez.
And Sanchez, if he ain't sold this summer, he's going to get a new deal.
I can't listen. For me, when you look at it, right, I get it. It's a difficult time within the world to actually get money for some of these players. So I understand why a number of them had to go out on loan during the summer. But surely now the likes of Sessegnon, when their contracts are running down, that's where as a club you've got to turn around and go, right, either flog him with a year left for whatever you can get for him, or let it run down and he goes on a free. For me, that's not the type of player that you reward again. This is, again, I've got nothing against Ryan Sessegnon personally. I just look at Tottenham Hotspur and go, would any of our rivals in that top 5-6 have a Ryan Sessegnon or a Davinson Sanchez in their squad? And I don't believe they would. But we will offer one of them. They're going to offer Sessegnon a new contract. They will, Tobes.
Yeah, 100%. He was rumored to be offered one last summer, and I just couldn't get my head around it. It makes no sense to me, man. It really makes no sense to me. And that's what annoys me, right? There's two things you can do. So normally, not when you look at some of these top 6 teams, not every single player from top to bottom is gonna be to the standard, but they have to they have to have at least a basic level of competence, right? And I think with us, we have so many players. We have one too many players that are below the basic level of competence that you need, and more, and what makes it worse, what compounds the misery, is that we then have no sort of standout player in some of these positions to oust these guys out of the team. We don't have that.
No,
And that's what honestly annoys me, because then we're in this perpetual cycle where we keep having to rely on these guys, because you won't upgrade them, but you won't upgrade them, but you won't sell them either.
Yeah. I mean, look, yeah, you're absolutely spot on. Just quickly, I've got a super chat to read just before we go on to the next subject. Jamie Allen has said, thank you very much, Jamie. He said, Spurs won't make top 4 without improving the squad in January. City, Pool, Man U, Newcastle, Arsenal, all better. It's a tough one, because I agree with you, Jamie. I also agree with, and this is what I said at the beginning of the season, I agree with what Tobs said just now. One thing we've got over some of these clubs is firepower. So for me, I think you keep Kane fit, you've got every chance of top 4. If you don't, I can't see it. But thank you very much, Jamie, for your post. Tobes, I want to look at this. So this was put out today. Here, you can see this.
Yeah.
So Tottenham Hotspur forward targets in January include Tete, who I believe is on loan at Lyon from Shakhtar.
Is that the one? Yeah, I know Tete.
Harvey Barnes, Ismail Assar, Wilf Zaha, and Malinowski. Now, listen, I know it says forward targets in January include, but let me ask you a question, Tobes. In this window, let's assume Spurs are going to buy no more or loan no more than 2 players. Because it's never a window where 3 or 4 come in.
Yeah.
Should we be looking at anything to do with the forwards area when we've got such catastrophic needs at wing back and centre back?
No, I don't think we should be. I think the 2 signings for me, if Spurs can only make 2 signings this window, it has to be a centre back and a right wing back. It has to be. It has to be. I think if you sign a forward, they're obviously going to look for a forward to either occupy like that backup role for Kulusevski, because obviously when he was out of the team, we didn't have anyone who could play that role, right? But that's a lot. That's a nice to have, right? Frank Kessie, who's been linked with the club, I think it's a snip. 15 million euros. I think it's a snip. I think he's a good player, but again, that's a nice to have right now. It's not a necessity. It's not a necessity right now. What we need is a right wing back and a centre back. We need to improve this defense. If we can get the defense playing at even 50% higher than what it is now, you'll see a much better side. You'll see the team get to play the game higher up in the football pitch. You'll see the midfield not have to basically drop so deep to try and help these guys because they can't play out at the back. You see centre backs that have a decent switch of play that can open up a game of football. You will see a much better team if you improve just 2 positions in the defense.
I mean, listen, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. And you know, if we look at those players as well, I mean, Kuva, who I do a lot of the streaming with, I don't know if he's in the chat. If you are, big up Kuva. He messaged me earlier and he said, if you know, we're looking at players like Harvey Barnes and Will Zaha, but does that fit into what Antonio Conte said last week, which was we are looking for young players on relatively low salaries? Because Will Zaha's on 130k plus and he's 30 years of age.
Yeah.
Now, whilst I like Will Zaha, listen, if Spurs had their centre backs and wing backs in place, I'm all over bringing in a Will Zaha or a Harvey Barnes. I've got no problem with that. But the worry for me, Tobes, is if you go and get one of them and that's your only signing or one of your only 2 signings, they sit on the bench when everyone's fit. So again, it will be another window where you look and go, well, have we actually upgraded the 11? And that's the concern for me. And I know it's links, Tobes, but I'm not seeing any links with any top right wing backs, with any top centre halves. Everything I'm seeing seems to be forward players or defensive midfielders like Amrabat and Kessie, who are good players. But what you're going to do, buy them, also have them on the bench alongside Basuma while Bentancur and Højbjerg play. I'm just confused as to what the strategy is, Tobes.
Yeah, I agree. I think the strategy is definitely confusing, and it's one of them ones where like normally like I'm quite cautious when it comes to January. I used to be the guy to give the club ample leeway to see what can you do over the course of the month, etc., etc. But at this point in time, it's a needs must situation. Like, time is of the essence. We need to get these players in, and we need to get them in early. And most importantly, if they're good players, Spurs won't be the only team in for them. So we need to move quick. We need to move quick and just be as precise as possible. On the forwards list as well, it's weird because, like you said, right wing back and centre back should be the priority for me. But I've not really seen many centre backs that are being talked up for us to sign. And when I deep it, I'm seeing Paul O'Keefe say that Spurs aren't actively looking to bring in a centre back this window. The right wing backs we've been linked to, I saw we were linked to Pedro Porro. I've not watched him extensively, but I know he played against us both times. I didn't really notice him much, to be honest, in the first game, in the away game. I didn't get to watch the home game, and I was told he was excellent in the home game, the game at White Hart Lane, or the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, whatever you want to call it. Malo Gusto, he's young, he's 19. I like him. I've seen him once. I saw him against West Ham. He was wicked, but again, does that fit into what Conte wants from a right wing back? Because Jed Spencer's 22 years old, right, or 21 years old, and he ain't even getting a sniff when we can clearly see that he's better than Emerson Royale. So I'm a bit confused by what the strategy is this window. You say you want to cover for Kulusevski, but yet Zaha predominantly plays on the left or central areas. Harvey Barnes plays on the left or central areas. Right. Ismail Assar is the only one who can play right wing. And listen, what he did at Watford is what he did at Watford. Cool. But me personally, I don't think Ismail Assar is of the level to regularly play for Spurs at this point in time.
No, and I agree, mate. I completely agree with you. Just quickly, Craig Harlow, I see a lot of your comments. Every one of them backs and defends why we don't do what we need to do. And unfortunately, I hear this every window. If you look to last summer, the number of good centre-backs that moved across the world of football that weren't actually that expensive, players like Sven Botman, the year before, players like Joachim Andersen, this is what Paratici and his scouting team are paid to do. So exactly. Every player is available at the right price. So I don't believe that there's no centre backs available at all.
It's nonsense.
It is, because everyone else. Look, let's be fair. Look, one of the biggest hottest properties in Europe, right? For a young player, Cody Gakpo, right? Had a good World Cup. Name up in lights. You would turn around and think, he's not. He's not available. Liverpool just went bish bash bosh. How much do you want? Done. 24 hours, 48 hours. Romano said done. That's how you go and do business. The problem is when we say decent centre backs won't be available, Tobs. Let's be fair. What we will do is go. I'll use this player just as an example, right? Hincapi. We'll go to his club and go, right, what do you want for Hincapi? They'll say he's not leaving for less than 50. And we'll go, okay, well, what about 25 million plus 12 million add-ons? You know it, don't you? Listen, I know that makes me sound negative, but these clubs, Chelsea, they're not messing about with Nkunku. They're not going to mess about with Badiashile. They're not messing about. It's what do you want? Let's get them through the door. And I just don't know how I'm going to feel if this window, the centre-back is not addressed again, because the excuse as to why we can't play good football from a lot of fans, Tobes, is, well, he needs centre-backs. But this would then be the third window in a row with Conte where we've not attempted to address that problematic area. So is that Enoch? Is that Paratici and his scouting team? Is that Conte saying, no, I'm happy with what I've got? I don't know where I stand with this anymore.
I think it's definitely the club just not wanting to pay them the amount, right? Because one thing you said hits home, which is it's not our jobs to look for these players that are available. So when people say, there's not that many available, it's not true. Exactly. We are simple. We are simple-minded fans, and we can only go off what we watch. We don't watch every league, so there's going to be some players that we don't know. Romero wasn't on the radar for many. before he signed for Spurs. I know he got Serie A Defender of the Year and played for Atalanta, but I wasn't hearing many Spurs fans say, oh yeah, let's go and sign Romero. Bang, the news came out of nowhere. You do your research and you're like, oh wow, this guy actually looks pretty good. Badiashile, Fu had mentioned Badiashile to me in August or September. He's going for 35 million euros. In Dika's 6 months left on his contract. Skriniar, 6 months left on his contract. Kimpembe was linked with a move away from PSG last summer because obviously I think they potentially were looking to move him on. He hadn't signed a new deal, something like that. So I don't really buy this excuse that it's so tricky. It's not that difficult. It's not easy. Don't get it twisted. It's not easy, but it's not rocket science either. If you have a proper scouting department and most importantly the willingness to spend, you will get the player you want. Arsenal, and I hate using Arsenal as an example because they did this even when they were not that team because they finished 8th this season, but they went out, scouted and looked for Gabriel Magalhaes or whatever his name is from Lille. They knew what they wanted, and guess how much he cost? £27 million. So please don't tell me that it's so difficult to sign centre backs that can give us an immediate upgrade on what we have. It's not true.
It feels like I don't know this for sure, Tobs, but I feel a lot of Spurs fans, the way they talk about Spurs, I feel like we say a lot of these things to reassure ourselves that, oh well, I know we need a centre back, but come on, it is tough. The other clubs, let's be fair, Chelsea in the last 6 months have signed Fofana, Koulibaly, and they're about to sign Badiashile. In 6 months, Chelsea have signed 3 centre-backs. 1 vastly experienced, 2 very young, but great qualities at that young age. Yeah, so it's a succession plan for when Thiago Silva goes, for the fact that Rudiger went, Christensen went, and Azpilicueta won't go on forever. But you come to Spurs and there's no one out there. There's no one out there we could possibly bring in better than Davis or Dyer or Sanchez. It just, like, how would you feel about this, Tobe? For me, if we're this club with the world's best stadium, 6th or 7th richest club in the world, depending on which source you read, record profits, which they're not going to announce until after the window shuts, I'm hearing, right? When you go to like a Crystal Palace and go, how much do you want for Joachim Anderson? How much do you want? You want 40, 50 million? Done, get him in, bang. Vastly experienced Premier League player, can play in a back 2 or a back 3. But we don't do it. We just don't do it, do we? I'm so baffled by this football club and the backing it gets from fans. So I'm not baffled by the backing it gets from fans, but the backing it gets from not doing what the clubs around us do with such ease.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's confusing, man. It's really confusing, and it's like there are centre backs out there. It's just, are you willing to pay the money that it takes? Like, people say that deals are difficult to be done in January, and like sometimes January, it's not the easiest market to navigate in. Teams are reluctant to let go of their players, which means that you might not get you got more chance of not getting your target in comparison to the summer. And if you do get your target, you're going to have to pay a bit of a premium. But guess what? Again, it's a needs must situation. And when you don't do the necessary in the summer, you pay that price. So for me, in January, a centre-back should be of the utmost importance along with a right wing-back. You should throw all your resources towards that. You have to. Yeah. You have to. And if it costs 40, 50 million, pay it. Pay it. But it doesn't have to cost 40, 50 million. It really doesn't have to. If these guys are so good at their at their ability to scout talent, just do your job then.
Mm-hmm. I mean, absolutely. Like when I watch, for example, I'm not saying we'll go and get this guy, but you watch a player like Saiss at Wolves. Every time I watch him, I'm impressed. Every time I watch him for his country, I'm impressed. How much did Wolves pay for him? Where's our scouting bringing through a Saiss? Do you know what I mean? Where's our scouting bringing through those players that these other clubs seem to be able to do it? Where were we when Southampton got Bella Ketchup?
Bella Ketchup. He looks good.
Right. But these other clubs seem to be able to, like even that at Leicester, that Fayers guy. They obviously they sold Fofana. They bought this guy in for 16, 17 million, looks a player. And yet there's no one that we can sign, and we just won't. Let me just quickly, I want to ask you about this actually, Tobe. So Philo123 Coys, one of the many Phils that comes in the chat. Not sure which one of you is the leader of the Phils, but thank you for the super chat. Said, what I don't get is that Conte plays in a defensive way and says he doesn't need defenders, which we are clearly weak in that area. Baffling. Now, Tobes, this is an interesting one that's caused a lot of debate over the last few days. Some people saying, well, he's not going to come out and say we need defenders. Why would he? Other people saying, well, look, at least the message you want is we're always looking to strengthen in every area to show a bit of fight. Where do you stand with that? Because, Tobes, we need centre-backs, right? I don't even think it's we need a centre-back. We need centre-backs. And the manager's saying, no, we're all right. We've got Jaffet back now. Yeah, we've got Romero coming back. You know, Dyer's got a new contract. Davis has got a new contract. Where do you sit with what he said?
I think he's playing games personally. I think he's playing games, and because Conte, he talks in riddles, man. He talks in riddles. Like, he says one thing, but actions speak louder than words to me. And the reluctance, he's talking about Tanganga, but yet there's been a reluctance to use Tanganga when he's been fit throughout the season. And there was a big push to try and get Tanganga out of the door in the summer, right? If you expect me to believe that Conte is happy to be starting Tanganga, a player that he wanted gone, for a new centre back in the summer, when the club was scouting Bastoni, Skriniar, the club were actively looking for two centre backs according to sources, and all of a sudden says we don't need new centre backs, with Davinson Sanchez approaching 12 months left in his contract and no sign that they're trying to open talks with him for a new deal. I'm not buying it. It's bullshit, man. It's bullshit. I think he's either playing games to try and get a reaction from the board, or I think he's probably just mentally checking out and saying, hey, look, it's the beginning of the end for me. I'm probably not going to be here in the summer. So why does it matter if I kick up a fuss anymore? Because I've spoken and they've not done anything about it. So is what it is.
I mean, there's a lot to that as well, Tobes. And I know a lot of fans in the chat will be really pissed off at this kind of talk. But listen, we keep it real. There's a lot to be said for that. There's a lot to be said for, has he mentally and emotionally checked out? Has he literally been here long enough to go, well, I'm not going to get what I need? I've witnessed now from the first two windows. I've had talks about this next window. They're telling me they want younger players with lesser salaries, whatever. I mean, lesser salary than who, I suppose, is the question. Is it lesser salaries than Harry Kane? Is it lesser salaries than maybe 300k a week Christian Eriksen at Man United? What are we talking about? But
yeah,
in your mind, has he checked out, and will he be leaving? I'm going to put you right on it here. Will he be leaving this club in May/June?
As it stands, yeah, I think he is going to leave. And I didn't think that a couple months back, because it sounded a bit positive. But hearing what we've heard in recent weeks, I still think there's a chance he can sign a new deal. Personally, I'm retaining small hope he can sign a new deal. But if it goes the way it's going and Spurs bring in players in January that don't fit the manager's requirements, then I think he's gone. He's gone. And I think it's going to be interesting, because there is a fair share of people that want Conte to leave, right? Because they feel like he's the one holding Spurs back. And I think there's an argument to be made that Spurs can definitely play better football than we have done with the crop of players that we have at the moment. But there are still fundamental issues with this team that go beyond Antonio Conte, right?
I agree. Listen, I've said for a long time, Tobes, right? I'm not a massive admirer of Conte's style, right? However, I'm one person in a fan base. So I've said all along, sign the contract, then that shuts people like me up. And I go, cool, you've signed a contract. You know what you're getting into. Yeah, you've been at the club over a year now, so you know how we work. So either sign the contract and we all deal with the football you bring and hopefully you get backed, or let the guy walk at the end of the year, and then this club can finally be seen, I would like to think so, as to what it is. Because for years, the owners, let's talk about, like, if we move to the owners have been back to the hilt. And we did a huge show on it yesterday. We did a huge show yesterday on Enix's history, Tobs, and the fact they've put in zero of their own money in the last decade, yet making record profits and all of these different things. And the thing for me is this: if Conte goes through his own volition, or even if he's sacked in the next 6 months because he won't play nice and be a yes man, is that then a chance for the fan base to turn around and go, something's got to give with these owners now, because this is now another manager, and not just another manager. This is now the second manager we've had in the last 3 years that is a proven winner. Yeah. And if they can't do it, surely then the fan base has to go, right, this is our plan. We need to now say, right, enough is enough. You've got to do something about our club, Enoch.
I think there's no hiding place. I mean, there was no hiding place last summer or the summer before. I think the writing's been on the wall for a long time for me. And I used to be one of these guys who, and I think I'm quite objective with Enoch. I can appreciate the good things they've done. I can also talk about the negative things they've done. But I used to give them leeway, and it's like, there's no more leeway to give. There's no more rope for me to give you. You've hung yourself already, because it's like, how many mistakes can you make? How many mistakes can you make before you realize that you're just not up to the task? You can't run a football club to be competitive season in, season out. You can't do it. And I think with this Conte situation now, I think if he leaves, it'll be bittersweet for me, but it'll be, obviously, I know it's obvious why it'll be bitter, but it'll be sweet, because it's like, it gives them no more excuses, nowhere else to turn, no more, we did XYZ, because you sacked Pochettino, you hired Jose Mourinho, you then sacked Jose Mourinho, you hired Nuno, you then sacked him a couple months later. Now you've hired Antonio Conte, who propelled you to top 4 within the space of 8 months. And when it was time to push on and get in the players that he needs, he went in the halfway house sort of thing. And it's like now the writing couldn't be more on the wall. Like, it's there to see. You've worked with project managers, you've worked with win now managers, you've worked with proteges, you've worked with English managers, you've worked with every kind of manager, and you still can't make it work. So then the writing really should be evident that you are just not fit enough to be the custodians of this club anymore. You can't do it in the way that we need.
Exactly. And I think, look, the key thing for me is, look, I fell for this once. I've been Enoch out since they sacked Yo at halftime, right? So we're going back 15 years. But I truly believed when they got rid of Poch and they brought in Jose, I thought, okay, they're going to back him. In my mind, it was this simple. It was like, well, they've got to back him, right? It's Jose Mourinho. Love him, hate him, despise him. The man's CV is second to none, right? His CV is phenomenal. So I'm thinking, right, you're going to back this guy. And it was that year and a half when Jose was here, which made me realize it doesn't matter. It genuinely doesn't matter who is manager of this football club. It doesn't matter if you sneak a 4th place. It doesn't matter if there's a few good wins along the way against Man City and against United and Arsenal. The goal of winning things isn't the same goal with the fans as it is with the owners. And that made me realize. So that's why when Conte came in and everyone was like, why are you not overjoyed with Conte? It's like, listen, I can see how this is going from day one. This isn't an I told you so. This is a sadness. This is a, God, they've done it again. They've done it again. And what they'll do is, I'm going to go a tiny little rant here. This is what I think they're going to do, though. And where they win, where the owners will always win out is, there's such a huge part of this fan base that want Poch back, right? So their rabbit in the hat, I've said all along, is Conte walking or Conte being sacked, the fans going ballistic, and within 48 hours, they've announced Poch, and all of a sudden, that anger, that hate towards them that would have manifested has completely simmered down because of the return of Poch, and we go again. We go again with the same thing with the owners. Oh, they might back him, they might not. When does it end? When does the merry-go-round end?
I don't know. I don't know. And because the thing is, this, it's. I wish it was as easy as getting rid of a manager, but it's not.
No, of
It's
course it's
not.
not.
And the issue here is they're not going to leave straight away. Like, and that's what concerns me. Like, Spurs fans, to their credit, like there's been a reasonable section that have been ENIC out for the longest, and they've made their opinions clear, and they've tried, but it's not a united front, because there are still many people in our fan base who are either undecided or pro ENIC, right? But fundamentally, they're not going to leave. They're not going to leave, A, because they know that this club is a cash cow that's only going to make more money. B, because they know that right now the selling potential is not as high as it will be in a year's time when the naming rights are there, or in 2 years' time when this deal's here, that deal's there, right?
Yeah.
They want to basically make the club as attractive as possible, and then and only then, in my opinion, will they probably consider a sale. So unfortunately, I don't think they're going anywhere. So we're stuck in this perennial, we're stuck in this sort of like purgatory where it's like, Conte's here now, but he's not going to be here in 6 months. Then we get in another manager. It could be Poch. It could be this player. And then he gets the team playing well again. And we get top 4. And then the same thing happens again and again and again and again until they decide that they've had enough. And that's where I am with it right now. That it's sad. It's sad to say it, but that's where I am with it right now.
It's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, just quickly, a lot of people are saying in the chat, and I saw this earlier, I didn't know if it's advanced, that apparently Liverpool are close to signing Casado from Brighton as well.
They're in for him. I've heard that they're definitely in for him. I'm not sure if a fee's been agreed yet, but they're definitely in for him.
Good player, very, very good footballer. That again, though, the difference with that is it's a position they need, right? That, you know, they're going out and they strengthen in what they need, and they did this years ago, didn't they? With the whole Coutinho sale, and it was okay. We're gonna sell Coutinho, and fans went mad. I remember some of my Liverpool mates were oh my god, Coutinho's our best player. What are we doing? And within a couple of weeks, you know, you see, right, that's what you were. That was your plan.
Van Dijk, bang.
Do you feel there's anything that's said in the last? And this is going to be a really, I suppose, an up and down question, because I think there's an upside to it and a downside. Do you think there's any point where we should have done that with a Kane, with a Son, where we sold them for that big money and built? And I will cover that by saying the thing for me why I would love to do that, but not at the same time, is one, I think if you've got the correct scouting team, you can elevate your club. Sell one player, bring in 2 brilliant ones. I just wouldn't trust that we'd be able to do that. What's your thinking on that? Like, are you selling the Son now? I'm not saying selling, by the way, people. I'm just saying what Liverpool did. Just saying.
It's tough, man, because I love Son, man. I really do. I know he's in a rut right now. But if we had a crazy offer for Son, then yeah, I definitely would consider it. Simply because of the age he's at right now, and simply because we've been so reliant on Kane and Son for so many years that eventually we're going to need to reshape this team to play a new way, right? And yeah. I felt this way when City were in for Harry Kane last summer. Like I was resigned to Harry Kane leaving. My only thing was give us the money. Give us the money. Like I was mentally prepared for Kane to be gone, and I was even saying to my friend, "Yeah, he's gone. Just give us our money so we can attempt to ploddle our way through and look at life after Kane." So for me, provided that these teams give the amount that would justify us selling them, I would not be opposed to moving on from Son and Kane, because we have to move on from them anyway. My preference would be to sign genuine game changers alongside them, to play with them, and then phase them out of the team naturally. But no, that's not possible with Spurs.
I agree. I think that's the concern for me now is, you know, a lot of fans, I said earlier, they'll say, "Oh, you're fourth. Oh, that's all right then. We're fourth. It's all good." My big concern is you've got a manager that hasn't signed a contract. I'm gonna really lay this out on the line, and people will call me negative. I don't care. I've had that for years. You know, that type of, I really don't give a shit. You've got a manager who we don't know if he's going to be here come the summer, right? We don't know. You've got a director of football who is involved in all sorts of claims about financial irregularities, etc., and rumours that could actually ruin the Kulusevski deal and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You've got owners who are 50% liked, 50% hated. You've got Harry Kane, whose contract is coming to an end in 18 months?
Yeah.
17 months. You've got Heung-min Son, who, is it a dip? Has he gone? You know, all those sort of questions. I look at it right now and go, add to that Hugo Lloris. He's going to need to be traded. The next 2 years for this club and how we manage this transition from Kane and Son and Lloris and a manager and a director of football, this is huge for us, right? Because
100.
with Newcastle putting money in, Chelsea, Man City, Man United always do.
Yeah.
Arsenal, though, have joined the party in the last 2 years in terms of spending. This is huge for us right now, yeah? This next year is huge.
I agree. I think the Premier League is so competitive that you literally cannot take your foot off the gas, because one faulty move and all of a sudden you're behind for 2 to 3 years. Man United went from, I know obviously the second place was a sort of faulty sort of second place, but they capitalized on teams not performing well, and they were good in moments, and they propelled themselves to second. And in the space of a year, they went from second to, where did they finish last season? I can't even remember.
Yeah, I think it was like they were in Europe, so it must have been sixth, right?
Sixth. Yeah, they finished. They went from second. They went from second to sixth, right? So that's how quick the Premier League can move. That's how quick the Premier League can move. We went from 7th to 4th, so it's not inconceivable that if we don't do the necessary, we could easily drop from 4th to 6th. It could happen, right? And you're right. It is important. And what annoys me is, I do think that in the last 12 months, we've seen some good signings come through the doors. Like we've seen signings that we should be making more of, but we've also seen a willingness to retain some of the players that are not contributing to any sort of positive form or performances or contributing to our season at all, and they just keep getting retained.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the thing for me. Whenever, I suppose the job of a YouTuber or anybody hosting any sort of show is to pose questions. Some people will like them, some people won't. One of the things for me is whenever you mention how badly we've done with a lot of signings, people go, well, but we got Kulu. And I'm like, yeah, we did. But the problem is we get a Kulu and sing about it for years. Chelsea's, Liverpool's, they get, Man United got a Casemiro. Then went and got an Eriksen. Then went, all right, we'll get an Anthony. All right, we'll get a Martinez. Do you know what I mean? You've got, like you said, the Premiership moves so quickly, Tobs. You've got to be doing 2 or 3 of those every year. You've got to be constantly moving, moulding. And I think the only club I think that doesn't need to do a single thing this window, for me, is Man City. I think Man City, the only club, they've got 8 defenders now. You think they had their entire back 4 out last night. And put out a strong back 4. They've got quality up front. They've got quality in midfield. Everyone else, I think, is playing catch up. So, Tobes, I agree with you, mate. You can't, you can't
rest on your laurels, man. You got to keep moving. And the problem with Spurs is because we don't do what you've said. And this is my biggest beef. If we actually had a hierarchy that were invested in making sure that the team stays competitive, and by that I mean adding the 2 or 3 players each window, and I don't just mean 2-3 players just for the sake of making up a squad, because that puts you into more problems. That puts you into way more problems, as we've seen now with your Joe Rodons and your fucking and your Emerson Royales and whatever. That puts you into way more problems. I mean, signing 2 or 3 players that are a genuine uplift on what you have. Spurs have struggled to do that for years under Enix's ownership, and it gets us always to a point where we're like, oh fuck, we need to sign 5-6 players. You shouldn't need to sign 5 or 6 players every summer, and yet here we are. Why is that?
Right.
Why is that?
This is what I've always said, Tobes. For me, when people say a manager's being backed, for me, 6 or 7 players in a window, that doesn't automatically equate to backing. For me, I'd rather go, all right, you've spent 150 million in the window. I want 3 50 million pound players that are all, I don't want to say quality, but they're all an uplift on what you've currently got.
Yeah, like good players. That's it.
What we do, and what we've done recently in the last 10 years, there's been multiple occasions where we go out and we do 6, 7, 8 signings in a window, and fans go, there you go, manager's been backed. And it's like, but if you're spreading 150 million across 8 players, the clue is in the volume, right? That naturally it's telling you that none of them are going to be top quality. Just quickly, Will, is this you? I don't know if this is the real Will Stewart. If it is, let me know in the chat, and I'll come back to this question and pose it to Tobs. But you know how people like to make up fake accounts. For you, Tobs, if I said to you, right, you've got 2 players that you can bring in this window that are realistic. You know, I'm not talking Messi. We'd all love a Messi, but 2 realistic footballers that can come in and could guarantee us top 4 and consolidate what we need. Realistically, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at Skriniar. I'm looking at Skriniar at Inter Milan. He's got 6 months left on his deal. Be ambitious. Try and throw some money at it with Inter Milan in January. Try and give him big wages and say, hey, look, come to England. Perisic is here. Conte is here. Come and play for Conte. Try it out and see what works. I know he wants to stay at Inter, but I'm looking to bring Skriniar to North London. He's the right age as well. I think he's like 26, 27 years old. He's experienced. He knows what he's doing. And then I would bring in, I don't know which right wing back, just any good right wing back. For me, I'm not looking for frills and spills. Like if a good player costs 50, 60 million, so be it. But if we can get a good player for 20, 30 million, also go for it. Like me personally, I'm looking at players who can come in and have the impact that the likes of Bentancur and Kulusevski have had. If we can sign those caliber of players, I don't really care what it costs. Just bring them. Yeah. And that's what I'm looking at right wing back or centre back.
And let's be fair. Do you know what? This is the thing. When I talk with a lot of Spurs fans about, you know, upgrading right wing back and centre back, I agree with you. For me, it doesn't have to be this great big sexy name. You know, it doesn't have to be. I don't need a Bastoni. It doesn't have to be Hakimi. You know, don't get me wrong. If you offer me both of them, I'm taking them. But it doesn't have to be.
Of course.
I want a right wing back that is a 7/8 out of 10 every game.
Gets
back, gets forward, good on the ball, can join in attack, can defend. They don't have to be. They don't have to set the world alight. But for me, we seem to go one way or the other. We go for brilliant players like a Kulusevski, or we go for an Emerson Royale. It's just like, can we not meet in the middle a little bit? Let me put this question to you from Will Stewart. Big yourself up, Will. He said, how many signings do you think we need to play attacking possession-based football effectively? And how do we sign those players if we can't even get the 2 or 3 players Conte needs to play his system?
So I think for us to improve our possession-based game, we definitely need to sign 2 new centre-backs. I think the centre-back one is the utmost importance. The defence is the bedrock of your team. And I think if you raise the technical level and quality of your backline as a side, you can do so much more in a game of football. Perisic has got the tech, but we know he's nowhere near as dynamic as he used to be. I don't know what Destiny is looking like next season, but from what I've seen in Italy, he looks good, right?
Yeah.
If we had technically sound wing backs at either end who could not only go up and down to a good standard, but were comfortable with the ball under pressure, that instantly aids the building up from the back. If we had centre backs who could also give us the same, can receive the ball from Lloris and not treat it like a hot potato when you're being pressed by a Gabriel Jesus. And when you have the ball and you have time, can you switch play? Can you ping the ball 30, 40 yards to Kulusevski on a consistent basis? Spurs at their best under Pochettino, we had dynamic fullbacks and Danny Rose who were up and down. Danny Rose wasn't what's the word I'm looking for? He wasn't Marcelo. Carl Walker wasn't Kyle Walker wasn't Philip Lahm. They were good players. They were good players in a well-functioning machine, and they were confident when they had the ball. And that's another thing we have. We have players that are timid and have no ability on the ball and have no self-belief that they can actually go past players. If we sort the back line out, you'll see a much better side. I'm so sure of it. And then in terms of what else we need as well, midfield, I think we have 4 midfielders, but they're all similar profile midfielders.
Agreed.
If we're playing a 3-4-3, we should maybe try and find a midfielder who has the engine of like a Bentancur, but can do more with the ball than Bentancur.
Yeah.
Right? I like Bentancur. I like Basuma. I think they're really good players. But I think if we had a player whose remit, whose MO was about dictating the game of football, finding those gaps in the team of the passes, and getting into the final third and scoring goals. I know Bentancur's trying to do that now, but he's not a natural in comparison to others, right? If we had these things, you would see a better brand of football. You would.
Do you know one player I think we really, before I ask you the next question, one player I think we really missed out on is going back for Eriksen. Every time I watch Man United play, this guy just, everything goes through him. Every passing move, his switching of the play, his ability to get forward, his ability to sit and hold as well. I just look at a player like that and think these players were there and they were free. But the question I want to ask you is this, Tobs. The whole Conte thing with players, look, as fans, we don't know if he's going to be there come the summer. Yeah. And I think Alistair Gold put out a piece yesterday, which was quite interesting, or maybe the day before, saying that indeed there is a clause for another year, but there is an agreement in place that both parties have to agree on that clause. It can't just be Spurs going, "Oi, you're signing for a year." It has to be mutual.
Yeah.
With that in mind, is this a deterrent to players we're trying to sign now? If you were a player, are you thinking, well, I'm signing for Tottenham Hotspur, the club, or I'm signing for Antonio Conte, the manager? Oh, hang on. Is he going to be there? Is this a club that's not quite sure what he's doing moving forward? Where do you sit with that?
Yeah, I think it definitely plays a part. I think it does. And I think that's what adds to the uncertainty here, right? We have a manager who doesn't want to commit because he doesn't like the direction that the club is heading in. But we, at the same time, some of the players he wants, they may not come because it's like, yo, you might not be here in 6 months' time. Right. And it's just a messy situation on the whole. But again, it's a mess that we knew was coming. We knew that Antonio Conte was not going to be quick to sign a new deal. We knew he was going to take his time, right? And I don't believe that we should be making. Listen, I'm all for getting a player that a manager wants, but I also think we should sign players that are beneficial to both the manager and the club. And what I mean by that is when the manager leaves, those players can still do a job. If Arteta left Arsenal today, you're not going to abandon all the players they have. You still know Gabriel is going to deliver, Saliba is going to deliver, Odegaard is going to deliver, right? If Conte left today, I still know Bentancur is going to deliver. I still know Kulusevski is going to deliver. I still know Romero is going to deliver.
So, isn't the difference with those two clubs, right? If we look at Spurs and Arsenal, isn't the difference with Spurs that where we flip-flop from ethos to ethos under separate managers, that could be quite problematic when a new manager comes in. Whereas with Arsenal, you kind of see now with the players they've got, the next manager that Edu and the board bring in is going to be somebody that continues to play that kind of, I don't want to call it tick-a-tacker. They just play a nice brand of football. And I know that's horrible to say, Tobes, because they're Arsenal, but watching them against West Ham the other night, some of the football was lovely. It was just, the patterns, the movement off the ball. Odegaard looked the best I'd ever seen him. But is that a worry as well, that when Conte goes, because for me it's a when, I don't think it's an if, knowing these owners, isn't that the worry that the next man that comes in, does he want to pick up defensive-minded defensive midfielders? Does he want to pick up wing backs? Do you know what I mean? Is there that kind of issue that we've now got as well with Conte not signing?
Potentially, yeah, but I still think that the players that we sign are adaptable, right? I think Jed Spence can play right back. I think Destiny, he's young enough that he can be coached to not have to play a wing back role. He can play a left back role. He looks quite strong. I think it's easier to work on your defending than it is to work on the things that he's good at. He's good at driving the ball forward. He's good at getting into the box, scoring goals. Like, those are the things that are harder, in my opinion, to teach. And then I look into the midfield. I think like Bentancur, I think you're seeing this season that he can take up more advanced positions. I think Basuma, we've not seen the best of him yet, but we saw a really good player at Brighton, right? Like, I still think that even Richie as well, I know people are going to get on his back because he's not scored and it's poor. He's not scored goals, but I still think he's a good player. And I think there are gears that these players can go to, right? And I think they can go to these gears irrespective of who's managing the club. I think standalone, I think all of these guys are good players. But I also do think you're right. Like, there are specific situations, like a Perisic, for instance. If Conte leaves this summer and a new manager comes in and they want to play a back four, I know Perisic has played left back for Croatia, but is he really going to be playing left back regularly in the Premier League?
And you can even take that a bit further and say, well, a Doji, who they've brought in, if a new manager came in, is Udogie a left? I don't know enough about him. I've seen him play. He looks good, but is he a left back or is he just a left wing back? And this is the thing that I've said for a long time now, Tobes. For me, I think the whole thing needs a master reset. I think if Conte goes, the whole thing needs a reset. New owners, new director of football, new manager, where they start from a completely blank slate and go, right, the next 5 years is going to be painful. There's going to be some ups. There's going to be downs. But what do we want to be? What does this club want to be for the next 20, 25 years? Do we want to build an ethos? Do we want to build a team that, all right, I'm just chucking an example. Please don't all have a go at me. You bring in Luis Enrique as a manager because you want to play that type of football. Does the manager that succeeds Luis Enrique, the next one, he also plays a variation of that style of football? You know, because I think that's completely what's missing, Tobes, at the moment is we seem to be trying, you know, from manager to manager, hoping that Conte is going to come in and go, right, win immediately. But we're not that club, are we?
No, we're not. And we need to be for bringing in a manager like Conte. If you're bringing in a manager like Conte, I wasn't expecting Conte to be here long term. My hope was that Conte comes in, takes us back to where we feel we should be, which is a Champions League side, and wins some silverware. That was my hope for Conte. Propel us as high as you can, put some respect back on our name, end our trophy drought, and that's all. That's the most I can ask for, because I don't think you're going to stick around for long. But I also think that this club, they're too flip-floppy when it comes to what they want to be as a side. You're right. First, it's a project throughout all these years. Then you deviate to win now managers, but you don't give them win now players throughout the team. But then now you're telling us that you want to bring in project players to be managed by win now managers. It's just
it doesn't work, does it? It just doesn't work. By the way, people, as long as you're all right, Tobes, we're going to go for 14 more minutes till past. Any questions you want for Tobes and I, get them into the chat. Please make them sensible. And please please subscribe. We've got over 150. I completely lied there. 115 likes. Let's get this to 150. Subscribe to Tobes, top guy. Subscribe to me, beautiful man I am. And don't worry, for all those that have been asking, the beard will be back. Give me a week, it will be back. Tobes, a name I'm seeing. This is everyone in the chat seems to be saying it, and by everyone I mean about 3. Saying that apparently Fabrizio Romano has mentioned Ben Godfrey.
Nah, he ain't. I can't see it. I've searched. I saw it as well.
Is this a lie?
It's a lie. I can't see anything from Ben Godfrey.
Thank God, because for me, if that was our level, Tobes, I would be extremely worried as to where we were going as a club. Let me ask you then. For the rest of this season, what are you expecting football-wise? Because a lot of what's thrown at Conte, and again, I am guilty of this, is that I don't particularly like his style. I feel that we approach games very cautiously. And then it seems like the plan doesn't work. But then once we're behind and the plan goes out the window, we seem to then get a foothold in games and actually turn into quite a decent team. What do you expect for the rest of the season? More of what we've seen, or do you think we're going to progress into a slightly more progressive football side?
I think we'll improve for sure, because I feel like there are certain players that just have to click into gear. Like I said at the start, I think there are certain components that we were missing, like a Kulusevski. Romero missed quite a few games. I'm hoping that Touchwood, those two in the side automatically makes us a better side. If Son starts putting in like a couple of goals here and there, that makes us a better side. But in terms of the style of football, I think that's very much dependent on the players that Conte gets. Personally, I think that plays a part. And second of all, I think his willingness to change also plays a part as well, because it's like you've tried something that's not working, and I know you want to get new signings, but if you don't get those new signings, then really and truly, you as a manager, you should say to yourself, all right, cool, I'm going to make do with, I'm going to play the cards I've been dealt and just try and make a better fist of what you have available, because that's what he did last season. That nobody can tell me that Antonio Conte can't do this, and that's what he did last season. I'm not saying that you should be happy that you're working with Chicken Royale and Eric Dyer and all these players, but we know as a manager that he's capable of getting Spurs to play better than we had done this season. He did it last year with a worse squad, so I believe that you can do it with a better squad this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Because towards the back end of last year, look, there were some very good performances. For playing devil's advocate, there were some terrible ones. If we look at Burnley away, Middlesbrough, Brighton at home, but there were some really good performances, and I think that gave a lot of people this hope, Tobs, that going into this year, having had the pre-season with the players, that we were going to be fitter, we were going to be more indoctrinated into a Conte style of play. But it doesn't feel. It feels like the football's got worse, and we're still getting some results, but the football feels like it's got worse. Is, in your mind, is that a culmination of the Paratici thing and the Conte contract and buying players in that he didn't want, or is it just simply not clicking?
I think it's a mix. I think as a manager, he's not maximizing the talent available in this squad. I think that's the first and foremost. I think as a manager, although he's done some good things, I personally feel like he can do more with this team. So I think first and foremost, he's not, as I said, he's not squeezing every ounce of quality available to the point where we've said, oh wow, like you've tried everything and it's not working. I don't get that feeling from Conte this season. But I also think as well, we have one too many players that have to be relied upon that are just not good enough and will be a huge hamper. And will be a huge hamper on how he wants to play. This is a guy who likes playing out from the back, who likes incorporating a mid-block, who likes squeezing teams in wide areas. And we don't really do many of these things to great effect these days.
Can I ask you a question? I say, can I? Of course I can. I'm going to ask you a question. And I've seen, this is a comment I see a lot. When we're talking about the difference in play from last year, I get this a lot. It's that we're playing once a week last year compared to this year. Now, for me, I would understand if that caused more fatigue. But for me, that doesn't change a style of play. For example, Man City play 2 games a week for the last decade. Now, their style doesn't change from game to game. So where do you sit with, we play twice a week, that must mean the football's worse? Are you on board with that?
Not on. I don't think it's. I think it makes some sense in a sense where it's like, where he's playing 2 games a week, his squad management may not be the best. So he's overusing certain players. And when you overuse certain players, you don't really get them their best selves. Whereas if they're playing once a week, they're fresher. They can incorporate your your physical demands of them on a football pitch better. So I do think that there is a point to be made there. And I think that point is clearer when you see on the sort of mismanagement of our team so far this year. I think we've not really managed the squad well in totality, or better yet, Conte hasn't managed the squad yet in totality. But I also think you have a point where it's like your style should be your style, right? Like even if you have some tired legs or whatever, like you should still be able to show what you're about. And I think at times this season we've just been too negative sometimes.
Yeah, agreed. One thing I want to ask you, for the last 8 minutes, I want to talk about Son in a minute. Before we do, I've always been a big advocate, Tobs, I feel like as YouTubers, as people that have a platform, no matter whether it's 100,000 people or whether it's 2,000 people or 10 people, whatever it is, I feel that we've got a duty to acknowledge and to be truthful, right? Yeah, rather than just what people want to hear, right? And I've always acknowledged, Tobs, that I won't grow as fast as some people because of that. But what I'm seeing lately, which I quite like actually, is, and something I'm going to bring up here is, I'm seeing people with huge followings are now starting, it seems, to be on the same page. Whereas before it seemed like everything was ultra positive, yeah? I'm now seeing in the last few days, we've seen someone like Lee McQueen from Last Word on Spurs. I'm not digging him out here, by the way, saying someone like Lee McQueen, who's always been a big promoter of the club and blah, blah, is now saying things like, come on, we can't see off yet another manager. For crying out loud, you need vision, right? You've got, I won't bring them all up, but you've got Paul O'Keefe, who said something very similar yesterday. You've got Alistair Gold, who did a video yesterday, kind of saying...
I saw Ali Gold's video, yeah.
It's like, kind of, come on, guys, this is what we need. Is that what's needed now in terms of... Now that, like, going back to coin a phrase you said earlier, now that there's no more rope, now the stadium's done, the training ground's done, with record profits, world-class manager, director of football, now there's no more rope. Is that what is needed if we don't back this manager for everyone to get onto the same page?
I think it definitely helps that we were unified as a fan base in the direction of our club, because I feel like we need to make our voices heard, even if, because we spoke, the likelihood is ENIC are not going to go anywhere next season, but at the very least, they know where the fans stand, right? They know they can't bullshit us anymore. And I think it definitely helps if, as a fan base, we do give off a united front, because we need, as fans, we need to recognize that if we don't see any improvement, we're just going to be in this state where we're just coasting and right, doing the same shit over again, expecting different results.
And look, I've chosen now that my phrase for the next however long until ENIC go is going to be, nothing changes if nothing changes. And I know that sounds really silly, really simplistic, but it's true, right? We constantly call for changing. We want to win trophies. We want better footballers, but nothing's changing. Our strategy still seems to be the same. Again, I'm not sure if I believe Conte from what he said last week, but if what he is saying is true, that we want younger players with lower salaries, that's not in keeping with what the top clubs are doing. And then that brings us full circle, Tobs, that brings me to the point of, well, why did we move stadium then? As a football club, why? I get it for them as a business, but as a football club, we've moved stadiums and nothing's changed from a strategy transfer perspective.
Yeah, and I do think there has been some changes. I think we've seen us definitely pay more money for players in recent years, like individually. But I also think this club, they're a bit too risk averse. Like when it's time to pay the money for the player that will make that 50%, 60%, 100% more difference, that's where they're hesitant. Right. And that's the concerning. That's the concerning thing for me as well. There's still a hesitance when it comes to truly having an appetite to strengthen this team. That's the problem. That's the problem for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we're going to go to the last 4 minutes of the show. Tobes, I want to talk just last bit about Heung-min Son. A lot being made of his form. His form for Tottenham has kind of, apart from one really good run in a South Korea shirt, stretched to the World Cup as well. I believe in all competitions this year. I saw a stat yesterday, so I might get this wrong, but for Korea,
I don't know what he's got for Korea, but for Spurs, he's got 5 goals in all comps.
Yeah, I mean 2 in Champions League, but in 2 games, right? He's got 2 in one game and 3 in the other. What's going from your point of view? Are we seeing a player that's just dreadfully out of form? Are we seeing a player that's unhappy? Or are we seeing a player that knows he's going? What do you think's going on with Heung-min Son?
I don't think he's unhappy. I just think he's going through a real rut. Like, Son normally has these like spells, maybe like once or twice a season, where he has a really poor run of form.
Yeah.
Right. Earlier on this year, from around probably January through to, I would say maybe like mid-Feb or early March, he had a similar run where he would score maybe a couple goals here and there, but he was just really poor in terms of his performances. I think this season is quite scary because this is probably the longest it's been, and I don't think I'm ready to give up on Son yet, because I feel like a guy who just smashed in 23 league goals last season can't just be done. I don't believe him. I don't just believe, oh yeah, that's it for me. I still think he still has a lot to offer Spurs, but I can't really put my finger on why he's playing so poorly. I don't understand it. I don't have an answer for you, if I'm being honest. I don't know what's going on with him.
It's a strange one, isn't it? I've seen so many theories, in terms of, was it a comment his dad made at the end of the year? Is it just the come down from being the Golden Boot winner? Is it, I've seen people saying it's because Perisic plays on that left side, so there's that kind of crossover there. One thing is for sure, that I think if Tottenham are going to get that top 4 again, we've got to get players like Heung-min Son firing. Because, look, Kane, my worry is we centre a lot around Kane. Even, I'm not saying Kane's been playing brilliantly, but he still managed to get 13 league goals
in 16,
in 15 games, which in any other year, by the way, Tobs, we'd be crowing about how phenomenal that is. But because of Erling Haaland, it looks really average, doesn't it? It's like, 13. I've got 20 over here. My worry is an injury to Harry Kane, and I don't know what we do as a club. I'll be really honest. That's my worry right now.
Very peak.
Right. That's my worry.
Peak. And he's on, like, I read today that he's on 4 yellow cards, so he's 1 yellow card away from a suspension. And we got the likes of Man City coming up. We got the likes of Arsenal coming up as well. So
we've got to, we're going to wrap up in the next 6 seconds, but we've got a really tough run after Villa and Palace. I'm not saying they're easy, but after Villa and Palace, we've got a 10.
No, include Palace in that. After Villa, we've got Palace away. We've got Palace away. Then we got Arsenal at home. Then we got, I think, Man City away. Then we got Fulham away, which is not going to be easy. Then we got Man City at home.
Yeah, you've got Chelsea at home. You've got Arsenal at home. You've got Wolves away, Leicester away, City away, Milan away. And look, for people saying, Richarlison will play central if Kane is missing, I get that. But the thing is, for me, Tobes, I don't know about you, Kane for me doesn't just do the goal scoring job anymore. Kane for me, right? That's the thing. Who's getting the ball to him? But look, Tobes, quick few seconds to tell us, have you got any content coming up? What's going on with you? Where can people find you?
I'm gonna be streaming again on New Year's Day, so that'll be my first stream back. So I'm gonna try and do a post-match reaction for the Aston Villa game once I get back home. I'm gonna try and also do a preview, maybe just like to all things Spurs on Saturday. Preview the Aston Villa game, but talk all things Spurs. But that and then from there it should just be like usual schedule. I'm looking, and I'm going to discuss it with Fuad as well, but we're looking to bring the THFC show back in the next week or two. So then that would be good as well. So yeah,
he's gone all famous on us, hasn't he? He's gone all high celebrity, and he's a good guy. Look, guys, I'm sure you already have, but if you haven't, go and subscribe to Tobes. Great content, always level-headed, great guy. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much for your time. Smash that like button. Guys, I'm 31 away from the 2,500 hook a brother up, smash that subscribe button, and I will be back on tomorrow afternoon with Daigle for Savva and Daigle's Friday huddle, and then we'll be back on Sunday evening for the Spurs review, hopefully after we've beaten Villa. So Tobs, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me, bro. I appreciate you for getting me on. And listen, you'll shoot up to forget 2.5. You'll shoot up to 3K subscribers in no time, man. Thanks for having me on. Good chat as always, man.
No, mate. Always welcome. Always welcome. And as always, I'll end the show with an Enoch out. See you later, everyone.